going on, guys? Ashley with Talk Movies with us here. Back again for another movie review. This weekend we decided to see Maze Runner: The Death Cure, which is the third installment in the Maze Runner series, and it is also the last one. Now, if you didn't already know, the Maze Runner series is based on a book series for young adults, so quite often they're compared to the Hunger Games, the Divergent series, Twilight, which should be completely in a different category. And honestly, out of all of those series I just mentioned, I think that the Maze Runner series might actually be my favorite. I did really enjoy the Hunger Games. The Divergent series was just okay, but this one, for some reason, it kind of sticks with me, and I feel like it's a little bit more underrated than the rest of them. But yeah, like I said, Maze Runner: The Death Cure is the third installment, and I would definitely recommend, if you plan to see this one, if you haven't already, definitely watch the first one, which is just called The Maze Runner, and the second one, which is Maze Runner: The Scorched Trials. And there are a ton of reasons why I recommend it. One being that the character development from the first movie to this third movie is really important in being able to follow the storyline in the third movie. So just to give you guys a quick plot summary on The Death Cure, Thomas, who is played by Dylan O'Brien, gets separated from a few of his friends, but this happens at the end of the second movie. And this movie kind of opens up with him trying to figure out a way to rescue the friend that he was separated with. Now, besides him wanting to rescue his friends, he also wants to take down Wicked. And Wicked is basically an organization. They take these kids, they take these teenagers who are immune to this virus called the flare, and they're putting them in these labs, and they're basically farming them for their blood to figure out a cure for this virus. So finding a cure for the virus is definitely a good idea, but taking kids and farming them for their blood is definitely not a good thing. So Dylan O'Brien and his friends, who have basically been with him from the very first movie, they travel to the city where Wicked's headquarters is, and when they get there, they realize that the entire city is walled off. There's walls that are, you know, they're huge, that you can't get in just by kind of marching up to them. So they have to find a way into the city to rescue their friends. Now, I don't want to go into too many other plot details because I don't want to give any spoilers away, but pros of this movie are definitely the action. There was a ton of action from the very beginning up until the very end of the movie, and it was very fast-paced. It moved a lot quicker than the second one did, and I really liked that. I think that Dylan O'Brien has really progressed throughout this entire franchise, and despite him having a huge setback when they were originally filming the movie, and he got really hurt, like to the point where I think he almost died, and coming back and finishing it up and putting this movie out for everybody to be able to see the conclusion, I think that says something in itself. I really like the entire cast of the movie. The characters are just really great. And like I said, one of the things that I really like about this series is that there is a lot of character development in the main characters. Now, each movie there is some characters here and there that probably aren't completely necessary, but in a way they all kind of play this small role in creating the bigger picture. Another pro to this movie and to the series as a whole is, even though they are based on young adult books, one of the things that it doesn't do is shove a love story down your throat, which is definitely one of the pluses. You know, in the Hunger Games, definitely Twilight, even in Divergent, you have this love story that kind of takes over, and sometimes it takes away from the overall story, and you kind of get lost in, oh, do I love you? Do I not love you? And in the Maze Runner series, that really doesn't happen. There is a love story, but it is kind of small in the bigger picture. What these movies do that I do like is it focuses more on the friendships between these characters and kind of how they progress from, in the first movie, them being in the maze, to the last movie where they're coming face to face with this final battle, I guess you could say, with Wicked, and them building their trust as they go along. I think that that aspect actually sets it apart from some of these other young adult movies. I didn't really have too many issues with this movie. I really enjoyed the cinematography. I think the CGI is actually really good. The special effects and the makeup in the cranks, as they call them, which are basically just like zombies, were really good. And the only really downfall that I saw was that I could kind of tell some of the scenes that were reshot, which I guess was kind of almost inevitable because it was like almost a 3 or 4 year period in between them starting to film and then Dylan O'Brien getting hurt and then coming back and finishing the film. So there were a few scenes where I was like, oh, okay, that was definitely reshot. But it actually didn't really take away from me enjoying the film at all. And I will say I'm pretty much satisfied with the way that this whole entire series wrapped up. I really enjoyed it, and I think that this series is pretty underrated in terms of a young adult, teenager franchise, I guess you could call it. There are definitely moments where it gets a little generic. You have certain characters and certain decisions that are made that kind of makes you stop and think, oh yep, that's definitely from a young adult book. But in other ways, I feel like this series is a little bit more sophisticated than a lot of the other series. So I think I've done enough rambling. My final grade for this movie is a B+. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a solid movie. It's a solid conclusion to the whole series. And I think over time people might appreciate them a little bit more. Maybe not, I could be wrong, but I am not afraid to say that I had a really great time with this entire series, and I'll definitely go back from time to time to watch it. Now to get into the rankings of the Maze Runner movies. Coming in at number 3 as the worst of them all, I definitely think it's the second one, which is the Maze Runner, The Scorch Trials. I feel that way because I know that it was kind of setting everything up for this third movie, but it was very long. The storyline got very convoluted. There were definitely some characters in there that they didn't need. They could have definitely shortened the movie. There wasn't a ton of action, but overall, now that I've seen the third one, I understand kind of where they were going and why they decided to set it up that way. I would say my second favorite of the entire series is The Death Cure, being that it was a really great conclusion. Basically everything that I said in the beginning of this video. I think it's a very solid movie. There's a lot of action, acting was solid, and overall I just had a great time with it. And then at number 1, of course, is the original Maze Runner. I think that out of the 3, the Maze Runner still holds up as the best one, being that I didn't read the book, so going into this movie the first time, it was a complete mystery, and I really enjoyed the suspense they built up in the Glade, which was this big grassy area set in the center of this gigantic maze. And for a lot of the movie, you have no idea what is outside of those walls into the maze. And to see the characters progress from being absolutely terrified of what is outside the maze to conquering their fears and getting out of the maze, I think that it's actually a very solid movie. And a lot of people I know disagree. They don't like these movies. They think they're cheesy, they're dumb, the acting is awful, but what can I say? I have a really great time with them. So just to recap, the weakest one out of the 3 for me was The Scorch Trials, and then coming in at number 2 was The Death Cure, and number 1 is the original Maze Runner. Definitely let me know down below in the comments which is your favorite, what is your rankings for the series, and as always guys, thank you so much for watching this review. Give this video a big thumbs up, and we'll see you guys in the next video.